I did, yeah.
Oh, okay. I couldn't hear him. But
we're back.
Hopefully it works out.
I'm sure
we're
it'll
back.
be fine.
Sorry, it's been a while. I had my first anesthesia experience and had teeth ripped out of my skull.
Yeah.
So
I've definitely had what you had. I've had like 3 of my wisdom teeth just pulled out at the same time, sort of thing, years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of them's just not healing at the same pace as the other ones, so
that's fun.
Still a little sore, but
yeah,
I'm gonna. And they can't prescribe too many awesome painkillers for me because of my kidney stuff. So it's just like, well, here's acetaminophen. Hopefully that'll do it for you. So there's just been some painful times, but it's getting better, you know.
How did you feel about like getting it done? Did they put you under for it, you said?
They put me under,
yeah, okay.
And just that classic experience of like you're counting down or whatever, you're fully aware of something, and then it's just it's later, lost time, you know.
Yeah. So they didn't do that for me. They just pulled them out of my head.
Frozen.
Yeah.
Oh man, that sounds bad. I don't know.
It does sound bad, and like in retrospect, it's disgusting hearing like the bone crack out of your jawbone, right? Like because they have to like crack it and kind of rip it out. But it didn't.
I have no gory memories really.
It didn't feel like anything though, like at all. It hurt as the freezing started wearing off. Like it slowly just started getting more and more sore, and then it just kind of stayed there for like a couple days. But yeah, all things considered, I was really impressed that they ripped parts of me out and it was totally okay.
Yeah. For me, it was the closest thing to like, I'm assuming like a simulation of what a boxer goes through or something after, where you're just spitting up tons of bloody mucus and stuff.
And you don't remember what happened. Yeah, sure.
It's like, what truck hit me or whatever, but it's just like, no, yeah, it was surgery.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But one thing did happen before that is we had our weird little anime expo. Did you went to that? Was there any Berserk stuff that you saw or were like contemplating?
A little bit. I saw a Griffith walking around with a Crimson Behelit on like a lanyard, which I thought was fun.
This is pretty good.
A couple guts were going around. I think a couple. I definitely saw one with Berserker armor or whatever.
Yeah.
And then maybe one in more just regular, you know, apostle fighting mode or whatever.
Sure.
Not too much in terms of like other characters, like for art and stuff. It would just be like guts stuff.
Yeah,
was mostly what I was seeing. So you know, Shirka fans or whatever, you just
missing out, or they're just not showing up to this. They're going to Dragon Con. I don't know what's another like what's a weirder anime
maybe
thing?
Bigger ones. Yeah, our local one's called Odafest.
Yeah.
It was pretty fun. It's just downtown. It was very smoky that week, so that was kind of weird.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, like kind of low key. I think we really got most of our stuff in on the first day, and then we just kind of kept going because we had a weekend pass, and we're accomplishing less and less each day. But it's like, I guess we'll walk the floor again. I don't know. Let's see what we got here. Not a lot of video games, I will say, as a video game fan.
Right.
Like one booth with some like PS3 games or something. There wasn't a lot of hot deals on that front.
Sure.
I got a little Gravelord Nito, like a magnet standy guy. He's one of my favorite bosses. So I wish he was tougher, I guess. He's so cool looking, but he's actually not that big a deal. But
yeah,
in my head, just a skeleton man made of skeletons. Just a great idea. So
he's pretty good. His whole fight is like the shit he summons, really, though. Although he is kind of
it's just like, don't run around or you'll aggro like 40 skeletons.
Yeah,
and that's it for you.
Yeah,
just kind of wait for him to come over here and that'll be okay.
And then like dodge when he screams.
The lead up to it's pretty good, but yeah,
his scream is pretty good. The shriek that he does is pretty good, though.
He's a pretty cool character. I don't have it nearby. I should have thought about that for video fans, which there aren't any except you.
Yeah, because I'm not even recording the video, and I haven't been. I should probably have been. Just not even as like an extra, but if the audio gets fucked up, at least there's a backup.
It's like a backup plan. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well.
But yeah. Anyway, that's local happenings in the interim. Sorry for the big gap. It was kind of like leading right up to this big thing. As soon as I like started reading again, I was like, oh yeah, this huge cataclysm was about to happen, and we just kind of paused, and weeks went by. So
I don't think the gap was actually that big though, all things considered, because we did a couple back to back, right? It's only been 1 week, and I guess this week as well. Okay. Because, like, we didn't have an episode on the week of the 29th, and then we're recording this on the 6th, so there would have been an episode yesterday, but that's not that bad. It's 1 week off, and, you know.
I guess so. I just felt like,
It felt like a long time.
Sure.
It's been a long
since
few
I
weeks.
read it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, Berserk. I don't know if you've heard of this thing, Kentaro Miura. He was a manga guy.
Yeah.
Big demon enthusiast, I guess.
Writing those magazines.
Weird creatures. He was writing magazines right up till he died.
And
this is a pretty important one. This is the end of the Millennium Falcon arc.
Yep.
Which kind of makes sense with that title at the end of this. There's like a thing pertaining to Falcons, so I was like, oh, okay, sure, that seems important.
Yep. Millennium Falcon or Falcon of the Millennia, depending on like which translation I guess you look at. It's the same thing. Millennium Falcon's funnier.
Still, major event, major giant thing. Barely any of our party in this though, which I thought was kind of funny. They're just like miles away on a boat.
Yeah.
And yeah. Okay, so Ganishka has transformed himself into just the biggest thing ever.
Yeah, so
like a giant world-ending tentacles tree thing.
Last that we saw, he suffered kind of like a defeat of sorts or whatever, and as a last like desperation play, he decided to try to rebirth himself or reincarnate himself using his weird machine thing, even though he's already like what are they called again?
An apostle.
And it created this thing. huge thing. Like I was trying to like as I was reading it, I was like, I don't know how to convey how big the scale of stuff is. Like, I'm a big kaiju movie fan, and this is like the biggest thing I've ever like seen conveyed to me, like the largest scale event I've ever seen in fiction or the Book of Revelations even. Like, this is like concentrated, massive scale stuff. It is referred to by multiple people as watching the end of the world happen. Like, it is such a cataclysmic thing. Which is
you get actually at the beginning of this volume, you do get still more people kind of just like, what the hell is that? Like, just kind of like gawking at something like a continent away. They can see this thing. It's just like, what is happening over there? I'm just out here tending my field or whatever. What is that? And there's just like a giant like column of tentacles and like a giant storm cloud.
Like, how do you even explain, like, how do you paint a word picture of what this thing is?
You know the biggest boss in Shadow of the Colossus, like 20 times as big as that is looming over everything.
I really like how they
skyline.
I really like how they depict it as being so big that like an iceberg, the thing we see is like part of the bottom, but this like the top of it is so far obscured in the atmosphere that we actually can't see the top of it. Like, it's
you can't really see its head.
It's so high above clouds.
It's too tall for our sky. Like, the amount of matter that is here is insane, considering how many people got sucked in and stuff. It's just like, I don't know what happened. Like, reality broke a little bit, and that thing is bigger than it can be.
Right.
Or whatever. What was that Netflix anime about Godzilla? After, like, 1,000 years, he just kept growing. And you see him standing on Earth, and it's like, how is he breathing? Like, he's beyond
right.
huge. It doesn't make sense.
It's that.
It's like that.
Yeah. It's
total
crazy.
madness. But there are also just emanating from its base or whatever smaller creatures that can at least be part of a battle, like that are at least scaled to the point where humans and apostles and Griffith and them can at least deal with that.
Yeah.
But they're like King Kong size, like 50 feet things. But those seem nothing compared to this gigantic thing behind it. Right. They also get into, like, Ganishka's personhood or whatever has just been kind of scrambled. Like, he doesn't understand anything beneath his scale anymore. He doesn't recognize his own army. He doesn't recognize Daiba.
Right.
Like, he's just at God tier or whatever. The only thing he at to the point where he feels alone. He's just like, I don't know what's happening. Like, I just want to talk to someone, anyone, like, see something. And then he sees the glowing hawk in the distance or whatever, and he's like, oh yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted that light. So that's what's motivating it, I guess.
Yeah.
But
it's
anyway.
like, how do they refer to it as, like, his ego no longer exists or whatever? Now he is literally just like the calamity.
Daiba expressly tries to talk to him. He's like, whoa, hey, you're stepping on your own troops. Like, those insects, those are your people. And it's just like, get away from me, bug, or whatever. Like, he just kind of doesn't recognize that. And then he's talking to himself of just like, wait, where is Daiba? Who is Daiba? Who am I? Like, what is this? And then the breakthrough. Daiba describes him as being basically Shiva. Like,
the one who destroys the world with fire. Yeah, I thought that was sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, oh my gosh. So, thus far, there's been a lot of, like, hey, this is, like, storytelling, like, you know, get a lot of fun banter between characters and stuff.
Yeah.
So much of this volume is just gigantic splash pages of just, like, the biggest, craziest army of creatures I've ever seen in any medium. So
let me quickly say how displeased I am about that, because that does not lend itself well for reading on my tablet, which is because I have to, like, do this weird scroll thing. So what I ended up doing a lot is putting it, like, so that it was all on the tablet, so I could kind of see, like, how it looked like a layout or something, and then I would go into it to read it when I couldn't see the details.
Yeah, when I first started reading Berserk on the Libby, like, library app, I was able to turn it horizontal, and it would kind of try to fill the screen with, like, a landscape or whatever.
Yeah.
It's been glitching out with that. It doesn't handle it anymore. I don't know.
This is a bad volume for that to not work. Wow.
Yeah. So it's crazy. There's, like, 6 pages in a row that are just, like, monsters, like 2 giant, like, battalions of creatures or whatever, and it's just like, this would be a crazy dope, like, tapestry or something on a wall just to let you take in the enormity of all this crazy detail. But yeah, it's a little short-served by just printed page or whatever. But
this made me want, like, just like a big print version of this, so that I could just, like, hold this giant book open and look at these, like,
oh yeah, things. Like, just volume 34, 35, just have, like, a giant coffee table book version of this one, just to really take it in.
Yeah.
But I was bewildered at times with what was going on, because it's just like, there's this ocean of creatures that are, like, Ganishka variants or something. Like, you can kind of tell they still sort of resemble him.
Yeah.
And then all the apostles just start transmogrifying into their apostle forms. And I was like, what is this? Who is this? There's just, like, a crystal dragon here. There's this, like, weird bug person. Like, what are these things? It's like, oh, they're the apostles.
It's kind of interesting, actually, because Griffith, like, tells them, like, I can't remember what he says, demon form or something. He, like, basically says
demons forward or something. Yeah.
He basically says, like, all right, boys, it's time. And, like, everybody turns into their, like, most powerful form, which is insane because he has this army of people there too. So it's like, oh, the jig is up. okay, let's see how they're gonna react.
Yeah,
to this.
because I was kind of speculating that he wants to have a fight with Ganishka off on their own or whatever, and like they can't tip their hand that they're evil.
Right.
But this is a major moment for like Midlanders coming to terms with like who this new Band of the Hawk is and stuff.
Yeah.
Because they all start turning into like even more insane demons than the things attacking them, and you get shots of like Midlanders be like, "Whoa, what? We're working with demons? Like this Griffith is in charge of demons? Is he a demon? What is this?" And then a giant like sonic wave or something, like psychic wave comes out. Like Sonya messages everybody and just kind of puts them all on blast. It's just like, "You idiots," in giant backwards manga. So it just said idiots.
Yeah.
You. And I was like, "Oh, I see. Sorry."
Oh, really? No.
I read this.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I see what you mean. I was like, no, it was fun for me, but you're right. The way you have to scroll through it. Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever. She yells at everybody in their minds and then kind of gives this speech of just like, it doesn't matter. Like we just need to stand with the Hawk. Like it's us versus them or whatever. You need to get on board.
Yeah.
And it kind of works. Like everybody just kind of snaps out of it. And then you just get the most insane team-ups kind of going on all over the place. Like, just dudes with crossbows on top of an insane-looking mammoth demon or something, and just all working together. It's kind of awesome.
It's kind of
like,
sick.
Yeah, it's like, well, this is sort of evil or whatever, but this is still just so dope on its own. Like, it's like... The closest thing that I've ever seen, like, on a similar scale to this is probably, like, Return of the King or something, when you have, like, Oliphants loaded up with dudes.
Yeah.
Like, in the final Mordor stuff or whatever. This is, like... This was written after that, so I feel like, oh, I gotta one-up that. Like, this has to be bigger than that. And it is, but it's in comic book form, so it's a little static or something, but it's still just, like, this is crazy. Like, this is page after page of the craziest monsters I've ever seen working with people, and there's just like bedlam happening, just battling happening. I don't know.
It's kind of great though. Like, I've always kind of been an apologist for human, like, I know people always like supernatural shit, and it's like Guts is awesome obviously, and he's obviously not normal or anything, but I've always really liked the idea of just these like unmanageable expectations that people are able to like work together to do, like a bunch of people like somehow killing like a demon or a monster of some sort. So this sort of thing is fantastic, where you have Griffith giving the orders to the humans of just like, this is what you're going to do. You're going to wait for one to break the demon line to try to get you guys. You're going to draw it in close. You're going to blast it with every cannon you got. Then the archers are going to do this. And then, like, that's when the spearmen are going to come up and, like, basically pin it down or whatever. And seeing that, like, play out, and how it takes, like, an army of, like, 100 dudes to kill one of these things, it makes you also
with, like,
realize...
concentrated fire, yeah.
It makes you also realize that, like, first of all, that's awesome that the humans were able to actually do something. But the hunter guy by himself, like, saves... what's her name again?
Oh yeah, so after Sonya's kind of call to battle or whatever, she just starts charging one of them on her horse
on her own,
and she is about to get munched. Like, this is over, and then suddenly this bizarre like projectile kind of flies past her and kills this thing. And then, the hunter guy, like the kind of Dark Souls archer dude, is in his apostle form. I think for the first time I've ever seen him in this form.
Yeah.
Because he looks crazy.
It's a centaur, but instead of a horse, it's a backward centaur, and instead of a horse body, it's a wolf body, basically.
Oh, but it has, like, antlers and stuff, too.
It has antlers that are also a bow.
Yeah, it's this insane, like, bio bow, like, Cronenberg bow coming out of this thing. Even with, like, a sight or whatever, like a small set of antlers in the center for the arrow to rest. It's so great.
And the arrows are his hair that he, like, forms into an arrow. It's weird. It's so fucking weird.
Crazy Bayonetta stuff going on with this guy.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he's at the back of the centaur.
Yeah.
Like, if it was a centaur, he just has, like, the body of a ibex or something coming out of his center. It's super weird looking.
Yeah.
But it allows him to draw back full shots or whatever.
Yeah.
It makes sense when you see him, but it's super bizarre.
Yeah.
I actually was noticing that common design thing through about a bunch of these creatures. It's like you have your animal beast form and your humanoid form, just kind of both are still present. So you have like a human head, and then like your chest has an owl's face on it.
There is,
like, that looks crazy. Like,
there is some weird harpy thing that looks like that. Yes, that's true.
Yeah, but you'll see it with all of them. Like just kind of like the silliest one that I still was like, all right, there's so much going on. This is fine. It's just like a sperm whale, but then there's like a dude's face on it. It's just like, yeah, all right, that's a guy. That's a monster.
Did you notice that on one of the 2-page spreads? It just shows like some of the apostles are literally just like a dragon. That not like a dragon like the crystal one that we've seen Grunbeld or whatever turn into, but like like Ridley from like Metroid, or just like some of them are just straight up
there's a lot of
monster.
Dragon looking things. Towards the end there's just a sky full of dragons and the world gets crazy, but that was its own bewildering thing we'll get to when that happens. I actually was so glad the next volume kind of explains what the hell that was in like an opening paragraph, because like, what is going on? What happened? It's like, don't worry, Mira will tell you. It's like, okay, okay, great.
Yeah,
because I was lost. I was just like, I don't know why we're looking at these crazy monsters right now, but
can we take a moment to appreciate those actual like blurbs at the beginning now? Because I realized that, like, oh, right, these came out like a year after one another, so they probably needed that to catch you up. We're doing them kind of within, like, a couple weeks of each other, and we still forgot a lot of the shit. So those, like, catch-ups are really good. Or it
just clarifies the bizarre events you just saw and kind of interpolates them into just plain words. It's just like, this is what happened. This is why the world is like this. And it's like, okay. Thanks, man. I was lost.
Totally.
The Pope or whatever, like His Holiness, kind of has a great sentence to describe all that we're seeing. He just says, like, oh, what's this feeling in my chest? Exaltation. What a radiant chaos is this?
A radiant chaos,
as he's taking in just the madness of this battle before him. And that was sort of my feeling, I guess, too. I was just like page after page of the biggest massive scale stuff I've ever seen. It's glorious in its own way.
There's like this is kind of in them accepting the fact that they're working with demons at this point or whatever, and how like the hunted and the hunters like fighting together, or what were some of the other ones? He just like the opposites kind of. The world doesn't make sense anymore, like at all. What's going on?
Total chaos. The thing, okay, this had me thinking about something, because it's like, this is so like gigantic scale, like the motivation behind it almost wasn't mattering anymore to me. It's just like, I know this is Griffith and this is evil, but this is so crazy,
this is so
and
big,
like awesome in a way that I can't help but like be just ecstatic with it in a strange way. Like Sonya kind of charging at that creature too. I was just like, hey, you know what? Like, she might be on the wrong team or whatever, but that's just bravery. That's just conviction. Like, that's just something, like, it's hard to not to respond to it, even though it's evil. I don't know. It was interesting just thinking about, because I guess Ganishka is kind of evil in his own way, but this is like, so we know what Griffith's about to some extent. So this is like a wave of darkness in a way.
Sure.
But
it's interesting you say that, because like originally, yes, but what Ganishka becomes by doing this isn't actually really that evil. It's just kind of existing to do the thing it does, which is destroy, essentially. Like,
yeah, it's kind of an abomination in a way too, the way it was created.
Ganishka no longer exists. Like, it's there, just existing, and its existence is killing everything around it. That's just what it is.
And you kind of get to the core of him still. You see a little bit of that. I guess that's pretty much next, right?
Well, it's kind of mixed in here. So we get like
I didn't even take a good note of this, but it's a major event. Like obviously,
while this is happening, Ganishka is kind of losing his humanity, which makes sense because he's gone full apostle. Like whatever is left is gone now, or whatever. And there's like there's a weird flashback, which is kind of done in this super cool, almost inverted look, where all of the like skin of
photo negative kind of like
all the skin of like
reversal.
the people or whatever in it are completely black, not like as in like pigmented like black people, but like just no features really, or very few features.
Yeah, sort of silhouetted or something with like eyes in the darkness.
Yeah, and
it's sort of his story of how he became an apostle, I guess, like the kind of betrayal and whatever, but also how from a young age he was like poisoned as a kid.
He was poisoned by his mother
family
because the mother wanted the brother to succeed the father or whatever. The mother hated him or whatever, so he survived the poisoning, stabbed his brother, exiled the mother. Then
no, I think she committed suicide.
She
after
committed
her
suicide.
favorite son was killed. Yeah,
and as a prince, he was attacked and like betrayed, and then in that betrayal, he reached for the behelit that was given to him by Daiba, or like a traveling merchant, he says, or something like that. But it's Daiba.
Oh, there was this stranger on the road, but then you see a shot of him, and I'm pretty sure it's Daiba.
And
so
it's that moment that he becomes the apostle or whatever. So yeah, we get his backstory, but it's kind of in this like weird fleeting. This is his final, like his life flashing before his eyes, and then it goes completely dark, and then that darkness is ripped asunder by like Griffith's light or whatever, and that's what he's like. Oh right, this is what I want. I want that light.
Yeah, and then you get like God Hand Griffith or whatever, like full femto, I guess, kind of reaching for this face, and then Behelets kind of suddenly appear, like just like start poking through, and you're like, oh, that's that blade of actuation. It's Skull Knight, baby. And then Skull Knight rips through, appears. Zod is caught off guard because he wasn't expecting that, I guess, and he is like going to deliver a crazy assassination death blow to Griffith.
Yeah.
And I guess he kind of parries it or something and just tears reality open in this insane way.
It's weird because Griffith, this is very much you've activated my trap card. So, okay, listen, we've talked a lot about causality and like fate and stuff like that.
This was a crazy reversal on like King of Skeleton or whatever they start calling him here.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Like, this was all planned, right? It was planned that Ganishka would become this being.
I feel like whether he likes it or not, like Skeleton totally fell right into
part of
causality.
Totally.
With this. Like the ability of his sword that he spent all this time crafting out of Behelets or whatever is needed for this transcendence crazy thing to happen. And Griffith kind of like, I don't know how he does it exactly. The blow misses and cleaves Ganishka's face in half, and it just splits open into this like kind of black hole void, like white hole, I guess. Just this light starts emanating out of this thing. There's like the biggest light explosion you could have. It's like there's like shots from the moon to show how it's enveloping the entire world.
Yeah.
Light spills over everything, everywhere. And then suddenly fantasy is real, I guess. Like Fantasia is the new realm or something. Like the world got reborn in this strange, fantastical way. And all these fantasy creatures, some of which we've seen before.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just now that is everyday reality for everybody. Like there's unicorns, there's fairies, there's dragons, there's like hydras. All of this stuff starts spreading over the whole world, and I don't know.
Yeah. So it opens up basically how do you even explain this? Anything that was ever imagined exists in a different like part of the spirit world, that's just open now. So anything that has ever been imagined is a thing now. It's all spilling.
Yeah, maybe if Shirka gets to explain it in the next one, maybe like the interstice is gone and it's now everywhere.
It's completely
it's
overlapped.
Just ripped open.
Yeah.
Yeah. That spirit realm is now just fused with regular reality or whatever. So you get just like normal everyday farmers working, and then suddenly a herd of like unicorns are running through being chased by a hydra or whatever. And I was just like, why are we focusing on this? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But then it's just like, oh no, this is just conveying that this is a global phenomenon or something. Like, this has just changed the entire world. I don't even know what to compare to. Like, in the From Software games, it would be kind of like the thing that happened just before the game started. Maybe, where like regular medieval reality has now been superseded by craziness. Maybe, like,
what it actually seems like. So the way this is portrayed is like the biggest nuke ever. Like if a nuclear bomb went off and it encapsulated all of Earth, essentially.
But the light is sort of almost like liquid light is just rushing over everybody and like transforming everything.
Yeah, I couldn't tell like if that was supposed to be fire, light, or just this weird reality, I guess, right? It's like reality fluid to show that like people are being splashed.
I would imagine if you were trying to put it in film, there would be a lot of light bloom.
Yeah.
And
like motion blur probably happening, and yeah.
But it affects everybody. Like, this is the only real shot we get of our party of travelers on the boat or whatever, also seeing this, and like Guts is standing there with like this light kind of flowing over him or whatever.
And then we get some cool shots of like things that you've seen before or no. We get like some unicorns in a forest, and then they're being chased by a hydra or like a troll like under a bridge or something, like a cave troll is and like people are kind of like people in the world are interacting with them. We get like sheep herders and like a
like
cave.
Skeletons start rising up, and there's just skeleton army kind of stuff.
A fucking like fantasy dragon jumps onto like a castle pier and wraps around it. Like it's the most like, oh, Mira can do whatever he wants now.
This is why I was thinking about From Software, because it's just like the biggest, craziest sights you've seen in any of those games just all start happening at once, all over the place. Like, it's just like fantasy realm blows open, and now there's just a sky full of dragons, like fields full of monsters. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's like, oh, someone sat at a bonfire and the entire world reset, and now all these creatures are respawned or something, like Blood Moon style.
And it just,
but whatever.
This volume ends with just like 10 2-page spreads of like different sceneries or whatever. Like one of them is like, so okay, we'll get to that in a second. One of them is like a bunch of dragons flying around like cliffs or whatever, and I thought immediately of Dark Souls 2, the I can't remember what's it called, where you go talk to like the big ancient dragon. There's like that rickety bridge.
I've played a big chunk of 2, but I don't have good memory.
Okay, there's literally like a thing between cliffs where you're like walking around and dragons are like there, or that's where dragons lived or whatever. Airy Peak, maybe something like that.
Okay.
Okay. And that reminded me of that. But the important thing is that after this, we get some shots that are very memorable of the God Hand and like their realms, I'm guessing, coming to life or something. And then I was thinking, oh, was this the plan? Is that like now every volume or 2 volumes or whatever, they can go to like a new realm, and this is going to be the weird sexy realm where Slan's like weird like bodies or whatever are everywhere. The
oh yeah, that there was that weird shot. There was like this weird kind of like body parts, like thighs and butts and stuff, just forming this giant like tunnel or something. I was like, what is this?
Just like,
what is happening?
Yeah, bodies like colliding together or something. Then another one is I can't remember his name, the fat one, the butterball dude.
Sure,
but
I know who you mean. Yeah,
he's neato because it's just like his big face, and there's rats and like miasma shit everywhere around it. Like,
Okay.
there's some cool ass like settings or like set pieces that is just like, oh, okay, they could literally do like anything, and now like they have basically stages, if you want to think of it in video game terms, for each boss if they wanted to do it that way.
Yeah, if that's what Guts has to deal with. You also get a shot of like the elf realm, I think, somewhere in there, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of shots
It's
of
just
people and demons looking in awe together around, which is hilarious to me.
Hey, it's a global transformation event. It's crazy. Yeah, it just kind of like this volume ends just right in the middle of that. Like the big light thing is happening, and then all this stuff is in motion, and it's just like, what? Okay, I gotta see how this wraps up or whatever. And there's not much really. It's just the capital of Falconia rises up, and it's just this gigantic palace that Griffith is going to rule from, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. Millennium Falcon.
I found that interesting too, because remember the like city that he imagined as a kid? Like it happened. He built it or whatever, because that's his imagination city.
I think the Pope was kind of saying like, "Oh, is this that lost city or something?" It's like, no, I don't think it is. It's like bigger. Like this is something crazier. So yeah, I guess it's like
they specifically also say, and it's also not man-made. It's not something made of by man or something. Where I think the other lost city was.
So Griffith has achieved self-actualization or whatever, and now he's got his palace.
He won, right? Like this is what he was going for, and his ambition paid off.
At this juncture. He has, yeah. So,
this might be a bit controversial, all right? But hear me out. I love Casca, but if this is like the end game, like, do we even care about like the rape thing anymore? Like realistically, because that's so far gone now. Like, obviously, we care because we like that character, and it's terrible. But also,
I just feel like from a personal vendetta situation, you still need to bring some hurt to Griffith. He's earned that.
Oh, no, totally. That.
But I think, like,
is
this good for the world?
Even
you
know? At this point? Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough. Like, he kind of punked Skull Knight pretty bad with just not worrying about that at all. Yeah, Guts has his work cut out for him. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a big ask. Oh yeah. Also, all the monsters and stuff and the giant Shiva like pyre or whatever just turn into gigantic trees. Like there's just weird life tree, like Deku tree style business going on.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird because this kind of leaves it where it's like, okay, there's definitely weird chaos. Like now there's all these fantasy monsters in this realm, so that could be really bad for humanity. But there's something like beautiful and glorious about some of this stuff of just like, is the world better now? Like that.
Yeah.
There's a giant tree. That's nice. You know.
That's why. Like I worded it really bad by saying, "Do we care about the rape?" Because obviously we do.
It's not like all is forgiven, but it's like, was it worth it or something? Or like, this did change the world.
It's weird because I wanted to say, was it worth it as well? But that's also not the right term or whatever. It's like, after all that we've seen happen, doesn't that seem kind of like the small potatoes thing? Just like, there's no like good way to talk about this without sounding like a monster, but it's like...
Well, but now I almost wonder if this is going to be some strange thing where it's like, because his sacrifice is incomplete, like those two still survive, will there be some flaw in this world or like some crack in it or something?
Like it can't be perfect.
Like it's not complete. His vision isn't actually realized and he's going to be gunning for Guts too? Or is it just like, all right, I did it. I'm just going to sit here. And then now Guts has a very clear hero's journey thing where he has to go to Falconia and fight that guy. You know,
I didn't actually consider that, like, the reason why Guts is, like, not just murdered straight out, I guess, is that Griffith has been so preoccupied with this. Now that it's done, is he just going to be like, I have one loose end to take care of now? And it's just like, oh, well, I guess that's me.
Yeah.
He raises his fake
Like the
hand.
inevitable clash or whatever, or is it just, yeah, the party's going to go to the elf-born, or what is it, Elfhelm, and just get cured and whatever, like gear up for the final trek or something? Or
Right.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's transcendent though, man. Worlds reshaped.
How do you feel
Crazy.
about it? Like, it's crazy thinking of the possibilities, but also we unfortunately know there is finite time before the creator stopped creating
I know.
it.
It's almost just like, oh man, now it's even bigger scale. Now there's so many more creatures and different realms and
It was
everything.
it
It's
was
like,
the glasses
yeah,
breaking
but
moment of like, well, now he could do anything, and that's when he had to die. Like, there was time now. We were able to do whatever he wanted. So
yeah, he broadened the stage to an impossible scale.
He became
and
too
now
powerful.
Won't realize it.
he could draw anything, and it would work in canon with his world.
Mm-hmm. It's maybe, yeah, there might be a bittersweet nature to it or whatever. Like, it's just like, you know, all the sequel potential or something. Like, it's almost like seeing like a failed movie project or something that was going to have a bunch of sequels, and it's just like, no, there's only one more, so I don't know if they're going to be able to satisfy it, like wrap it up, you know.
Yeah.
But it's pretty spectacular on its own, just as like a crazy splash art of the biggest scale battles.
Yeah.
Like, growing up just loving kind of medieval like combat stuff.
Sure.
This is like that times a bunch with just the crazy creatures and everything. So
it's going to be so hard
Still
finding
a
the
treat.
image for the podcast because there's so many in this volume.
yeah,
It could be so many of them. Yeah.
it's just that sword poking through the
I mean, I was thinking about it because that scene has like him attacking Femto on this giant tree thing with Zod there. Like, it's a great scene.
It's a pretty big moment. Yeah. I don't know how Skull Knight's going to take that, or Skeleton, King of Skeleton. It's so weird.
Whatever they say, yeah.
Good old King of Skeleton. Because, yeah, like, his whole talk of, like, trying to break the pattern or, like, not fall into the causality, and then he totally, like, played a pivotal role in this rebirth or whatever. Dang, that sucks. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I guess it calls into question, like, can you defy causality at all now? Like,
Right.
But maybe causality just demands Guts fights him. Like, that's all, you know. He's not exactly going against the grain of that. So well, I guess he is, in that it's like, oh, if I just don't and just live with Casca, then we'll be fine. But the causality, I guess, is drawing him to, like, no, you can't. You're going to have to fight that guy.
But, like, I think Skull Knight or whatever, like, I think he has said before, and he just knows that he's a pawn in causality, and it always has been. It's Guts who's the one that's breaking out. So this probably was always going to happen.
Sure. I guess it's like, I tried to do this, I kind of got locked into this thing, but you're an interesting individual. Like, you've got some moxie or something.
Yeah, he's
I'll
the
support your
struggler.
efforts.
I mean, that, like,
Yes.
yeah. He
And
struggles.
it's nothing
against
short
it.
of sublime. So
He's short of sublime. That's true. Yep. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, it's a very visual volume. Like, it's very few words are spoken.
Yeah.
But it's something to look at for sure. Not a lot of, like, maybe no nudity at all. Just like straightforward crazy creatures in this one.
If there is any, it would be in that weird Slan world that they show. But
yeah.
I didn't see. Honestly, it just looked like an abstract thing of bodies melding together. So I don't think there was any, like, obvious nudity. Yeah.
No, and it's super abstract and strange. So, you know. But anyway.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll still be some in this story, though.
I will say, I know it's big and a lot of big stuff was happening. It kind of sucks just not having our party around. I like those guys. Like, it sucks having a whole volume where I saw them for one moment, and it was the moment where they got hit with the nuclear like reality imagination wave or whatever.
Yeah, it was kind of reminding me of like the South Park Imagination Land
totally.
made real or something.
This is totally Imagination Land happening, but in like it happened with a giant nuke or something. It's weird.
Yeah. No, yeah, it was a little weird not having any kind of perspective on the ground for this, other than like little bit moments with Sonya and like the hunter guy and Mule, I guess, or whatever. Like there was a couple like, you know, soldier moments, but not our core people. I don't even think they get a line when they're hit by the light, really.
I don't
it's
think
just kind of
so.
like, oh, yeah.
It's also a little disappointing. Well, okay. So what he becomes, let's just call it Shiva or whatever, Shiva form.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was the catalyst for the world's rebirth to happen, or the colliding of the worlds, and never meant to be a boss fight. And that kind of sucks because I kind of wanted to see that boss fight. Like, they dispatch of that problem pretty easily, pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's kind of just Zod flies Griffith up there, and now they're on top of this giant stump kind of thing, and they find, like, maybe the last core of Ganishka's personhood or something. It's like this one face that gets the flashback and everything.
Right.
And yeah, it's not really a battle. It's just like Skeleton King comes in, swings, and oops, cut the fabric, and now it's on or whatever. Now the explosion happens.
Not to say that part isn't cool. That like reality in that
actually
is distorted, and you can add. There's like the panel of the sword swing that he took because like the path of the swing or whatever, or of the cut lingers in the air for a moment. And because Griffith said, or Femto, I guess, says something about like seeing it or whatever. It's just like, that's kind of interesting that happened.
I will say, yeah, when this started and all like the little creatures started coming out, I was like, oh, okay. Like, I guess it's impossible to really go toe to toe with something that is that big.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just, it reminded me of this. There's this kind of 1995 Godzilla movie where there's this giant monster called Destroya that is going to fight Godzilla. But then there's also a bunch of like tiny Destroyas for humans to deal with.
Right.
So you kind of get like, all right, that thing's too big for like this battalion of dudes with guns to like do anything with. We're going to have a smaller scale battle that fits that. And that was kind of the big army stuff, which I liked. Like, it was like, you know, but it's also just more manageable. It's not just like, you know, an army of thousands shooting arrows at the base of a gigantic stump or something. Like, that's not a battle.
Yeah.
You know? So you kind of need all the weird little creatures to give it any sort of comprehension or whatever. Yeah. So once you get to too big of a scale, there's just no real way to, unless you have something else turn into a gigantic form, but
yeah,
I don't know. That's not really how this goes.
The way they handled it is fine. It was, I guess, my preconceived notion of what that was. I thought it was a boss. It was actually a gate that was created, essentially. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. I just had the wrong idea.
Yeah, actually, now I'm wondering if, like, the blood flowers, like, when it was stomping on stuff, were those also turning into creatures? You know? Like,
I don't know.
Where those were coming from? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Like,
I couldn't tell where the fuck the creatures were coming from, to be honest with you.
Because, yeah, like, it's like suddenly there's just, like, a fog of creatures coming out from the base of the thing. Yeah. And it's like, oh, maybe, like, he's still acting like that fake Behelit thing, and it's, like, transforming these guys into weird flesh blob creatures or something.
Yeah. It was kind of cool that he had, like, multiple mouths that were all breathing fire down from the skies. I don't know. That whole thing seemed like a really, really cool boss fight, and I felt disappointed that it was just the catalyst for rebirth. But whatever. That's, yeah.
It took the sword of actuation to defeat that thing, so, you know, that's pretty big. But, yeah. It is a little anticlimactic having it be like a one-hit kill for that thing.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, and then
specifically totally because, like, I built it up in my mind, and I feel like they helped me along there. I feel like they built him up as well, turning into this thing as a big thing, only to be one-shot by the dude. Like, not even by Femto or Griffith after a fight. Literally just, like, assassin stabbed.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like that egg guy, like the living Behelit guy. Like, that was kind of like, okay, this is a vessel by which this Femto can be born in this world or something. Like, you don't expect a giant boss battle with that thing because it just looks weird.
Right.
This is like, you know, posing as threatening with all the tentacles and the fire breathing and stuff. You're like, oh, man. Like Zod is going to be flying around and they're going to be parrying tentacles or something. It's like, no. You just cut its head.
Yeah.
It's easy. So
yeah, that's really my only problem with it. I still think it's awesome. Like, and the way it ends, listen, I didn't see it coming. I'll say I didn't see that coming. It was cool.
Wait, just all the creatures or
well,
like,
the fact that like he dies and
Fantasia
opens up Imagination Land, the gates to Imagination Land.
Yeah, no, the Imagination Land's transformation thing. Like, if anything, it's kind of like what happens at the end of Evangelion or whatever when everybody morphs into one consciousness or something.
Yeah.
It was like that with, like, a budget and and crazy visuals and stuff. Like, a huge scale reforming of the Earth. Yeah. Anyway. That's this volume. Do we have any queries?
We do. We have
time?
one, yeah. From Dead in Sky. We have Berserk Arc Comparison is the title. And they write, hello to the good ship Seahorse. Quick question. Now that you're done the 4th arc of Berserk, how would you rank them relative to each other? So we got to do a ranking.
What are the 4 again?
The Black Swordsman, the Golden Age, the Conviction arc, and the Millennium Falcon, or Falcon of the Millennia, or whatever arc.
Yeah, it's hard. I feel it's hard to beat Golden Age. Like, so much is sketched out in that.
And the way it ends. I think if your answer is Conviction or Golden Age, I think you're right, probably. But I would probably edge out Golden Age just because that slow burn to the big thing that happens is kind of what kept me going.
Yeah, I mean, I was fine with just Black Swordsman, like, adventurer. He's going to encounter demons, and there's just crazy stuff.
I think Black Swordsman is the weakest, but it also has the least amount of material.
In hindsight. But it was, like, the kickoff for it, and I was just seeing all this stuff for the first time or whatever. So I guess if upon a reread, it would probably be the most perfunctory or something. Like, it's just like, we got to introduce these characters and the general stuff that's going on. Whereas Golden Age gets to go into the backstory, establish the conflict between the two, and then you get the eclipse just blowing your mind at the end of that with how dark and crazy it can get. So that's probably number 1.
Golden Age number 1.
I might even go Millennium Falcon over Conviction. I don't know.
Okay.
Like, is Conviction the kind of echo of the Eclipse or whatever? Like, the
Conviction is the echo. It's the oh my god, what are they called? The Holy See.
You get Nina in there.
The Knight.
So that's a big plus.
Nina, Elaine. A lot of it is him coming to terms with what he actually wants, and it's to keep Casca safe and finding her because she's missing. And then, of course, all the, the religious stuff with the crazy father dude that turns into an angel.
I think because Golden Age also feels features Casca in her prime.
Yeah.
Like, when she's a full person. Conviction is kind of bittersweet in that respect, where you're just like, oh, man, Elaine is so hollowed out and, like, burnt out. So I guess high hopes for, number 5. To restore her, maybe, or I'm not sure where we're gonna go with that.
You know what Millennium Falcon arc does well, or the thing that's really good about it is, it's where we're introduced to magic in this world, and that led to some really cool shit, actually.
And I like Shirka a lot in general.
Shirka's great
as the means by which that is explained and everything.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah, you know what? Golden Age, Millennium Falcon, Conviction, and Black Swordsman seems correct to me. There's a lot to like about Conviction arc, though, as well.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it when I was reading it for the most part. There was just little snags in there of just like, oh man, I'm frustrated with Elaine and
Yeah.
some of this, or people getting set up, and then I wasn't even sure if that one character was destroyed, like the kind of plague doctor guy that was
Right.
kind of given some backstory and everything, and then I think he's just destroyed, and it's like, oh, that guy was kind of cool, but whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
Does this next arc get to finish, or is this where it trails off?
This is where it trails off. So,
man,
yeah, we're catching up. Before we started this, volume 41 had not come out. Actually, when I started this with Ben, 41 was still coming out. Since we've been doing it, volume 41 has come out, and it is part of this arc.
Okay. So, man, hey, faster than, like, George R.R. Martin, and he's not even alive anymore. So, get to work, bud.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, not wrong. Okay, I'm going to dive a little deeper into that question. In Conviction Arc, there's 3 chapters, and in Falcon Arc, there's 2. Let's quickly rank those. So in Conviction Arc, there's the Lost Children chapter, the Binding Chain chapter, and then the, what's it called? The Rebirth? Is that what it is? Birth Ceremony chapter.
Is Binding Chain kind of like the Holy See?
It's the Holy Iron Knight stuff, yep.
I probably like that stuff the most. There's a lot of mysterious, strange things going on with like that pitiful egg guy and everything.
That's in Birth Ceremony.
That's maximum.
Binding Chain is literally just the stuff with Farnese, her backstory, and the Chain Knights.
Oh, okay.
I think Lost Children is
the
strongest
third one then
for me, and then Birth Ceremony.
Is that's like the weird bee person or whatever, and all the transformed hornet people, or whatever.
Kind of the lead-in to all of this, and that's where we meet Isidro for the first time. I can't remember.
Yeah, there was some decent tragedy with that stuff, with like that friend of her before she got turned.
I like tragedy stuff. Yeah, so
well, it kind of had like a fairy tale like quality to it, but like a dark fairy tale kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good on its own. I feel in isolation, but like it was kind of side events or something. Like it didn't have big scale stuff, but
yeah,
I guess it was just coming off of huge scale stuff, so that's maybe why it felt that way.
I think though,
but yeah,
Binding Chain has the scene of Farnese straddling the sword, so it's kind of a toss-up.
Oh, okay. It's pretty powerful imagery. So,
I mean, it's
pretty scary stuff.
Yeah, big girthy sword. Millennium Falcon Arc has 2 chapters: the Holy Evil War chapter and Falconia chapter. Falconia obviously being the stuff with Ganishka and the lead up to what we read just now, and the Holy Evil War being after Griffith's rebirth in the birthing ceremony up to like the war happening, essentially.
Okay. I mean, and is that also kind of Shirka's time to shine?
It is.
Like
yeah.
So I'd probably go with that stuff.
It's really good. Yeah.
Like is it Flora? Like who's the Fiona? I forget who her master was. Like the forest and everything.
Flora.
The spirit
yeah.
tree.
But
yeah. That was a cozy spirit tree, man. I like that place. The golems and everything. That was good.
For what it's worth, I don't think he gets the Berserker armor until the end of that, but he does get it in that. We get the magic stuff, we get the trolls, we get Clipnoth or whatever the fuck it's called, which is awesome. Yeah, that's actually...
And you get, like, teamwork stuff, like the harpy, or the, what is it? Kelpie battle. All that stuff.
Yeah, Holy Evil War is probably better, I think, than Falconia. Falconia, though, leads up to, obviously, the most important thing in this fucking series so far. So...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, Berserk. No one... I don't know if anyone goes Berserk in this one, really. The Earth or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so.
Ganishka's wave of light. Like, I don't know.
Maybe a few of the humans when they realize that they're working with demons for half a second until they're kind of snapped out
There
of
is
it.
some shock and horror there before Sonya kind of slaps him out of it with her mind.
I mean,
So
the thing is that, like, I kind of hate Sonya, but she's not wrong. She says something along the lines of, who do you see fighting for your lives right now? It's like the fucking demons are up there, like, saving all of you.
Yeah, it's a super weird, like, hey, quit being prejudiced, you know?
Totally.
Just forget it.
And, like,
it's like,
that's,
all right, they're weird demons, but, I mean,
some part of
there
me
are
is like,
demons, I guess.
some part of me is like, she's right. But they're fucking demons, man. Like, what do you mean?
They're real crazy looking demons, but, you know, it's a do or die situation, so we just gotta, you know, get on top of this mammoth thing and shoot crossbows. I don't know.
Yeah.
Pretty great.
I'm going to end this off with
Anyway.
saying that Griffith still needs to die, though. Like, you're right. He's still kind of a piece of shit. It's just that I'm just impressed with what he actually accomplished. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't want to, like, it would be kind of like, well, that dictator built a lot of libraries, though, or something. It's like, yeah, but, like, come on.
The thing is,
like,
is that
that's not worth a genocide.
People do that. Like, I have seen people
Yeah.
just be like, yeah, but
Oh, Stalin was great for the roads, though, you know?
And
like, you got to appreciate it.
Nazi doctors, like, created blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, they fucking murdered thousands of people, though. Like,
It's like, this eye transplant wouldn't have been possible. It's like,
yeah, I
come on.
don't want to come off that I'm saying that, like, oh yeah, it's totally okay what Griffith did because look at the shiny buildings now. I'm just impressed that
Yeah.
this actually led to something.
Really shiny buildings, though, and that's a really big tree. So, like, I get why you'd be swayed, but you gotta keep in mind what happened.
Totally.
So,
Yeah, totally.
yeah. No, yeah, it was almost like the dangerous sway of, like, just huge historic events or, like, charisma or something, like that Sonya moment and stuff, or, like, the awesome spectacle of the battle. Like, it's just, they won over this pope, you know? He's just like, this is probably evil, but he doesn't care. He's just like, this is awesome. What a dope radiant chaos I'm seeing.
Radiant
It's like,
chaos
I
is
know.
so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, that was Berserk.
That was
This issue. There's more.
Yeah. I'm excited to jump
What's
in.
the email, by the way? Well, I don't think we said.
Oh, it is I have gone berserk at gmail.com, where you can write in
That's right.
and maybe make some predictions about what's coming in the Fantasia arc. I guess this chapter is called the Elf Island chapter, which is the current only chapter in that arc, but that's what we're going to be jumping into next time. So Elf Island, I mean, I'm guessing they're going to get to Elf Island at some point.
I hope that Elf King is all he's been cracked up to be. We'll see.
Yeah.
Could Casca return in good mental health?
Thank God, I hope so.
We'll find out.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
All right.
But until then, I'm Nathan,
And I'm Paul. And
and we're going berserk. Wow. Classic catchphrase.